So, hey everyone, my name is Jeff Alderson. I'm happy to introduce a new podcast series called Beyond the Packout, a simulcast video podcast here from Cold Chain Technologies, or CCT. So, we're trying to take everyone behind the curtain here at CCT and give them a look at some of the departments here: engineering, marketing, operations, management, etc. Just to show you more about our people, how we do things, but I figured to start off, we'd jump into our engineering department, which I've long been fascinated with. I've been here for over 5 years now, and I've always thought the engineering team is top notch. It's really what distinguishes us as a company, as a brand globally. Therefore, to kick off the series, I want to introduce our first guest, Amanda Longley, a managing test engineer who's been with CCT for over 9 years now.
So 9 years, almost to the day that we're recording this.
Okay, well that's special. I wish I'd known that before. Could have done something.
Happy anniversary.
Could have said something, CCT, something really cool. But all right. So anyway, I'd like to start off by saying welcome to our first episode. Let's see where we go. I know you've had a lot of conversations offline, and that's kind of what inspired this whole series to begin with. So first off, I'd like to hear about your backstory. Kind of tell me your career arc. What got you interested in the field of engineering generally?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
First episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's great. So I am formally trained as a mechanical engineer. I got my degree at WPI, both BS and MS degrees there. And then I had 3 other jobs before I found my way eventually to Cold Chain, all kind of within the mechanical engineering disciplines. I designed boat covers and sewing patterns in an industrial sewing facility. I worked for a wire and cable company for about 5 years, and then I also worked for a company that designed and produced cubicle furniture.
Okay.
I was more of their production engineer, ergonomics type engineer for their workstations in the wood shop than I was on the design mechanical engineering side of things. I liked it out. I liked it a lot. But then I really was kind of looking for that design element again, working with product and product development. So I went on another job search and I found Cold Chain. And the thing that I really liked about Cold Chain is that it met kind of all of my criteria of a fairly small company, with the total number of people. I mean, by small company, they are global, but I would also be working in a facility where not only the engineering was being done, but also there were the other components of the business for marketing, purchasing, general management of the company, and on-site manufacturing of some of our parts and components. So for me as an engineer, that has always been one of my higher priorities in selecting a place of work, is that there is a connection to the manufacturing side of things. So you're working with the people who are manufacturing the products, as well as the sales, marketing, business development side of things as well. That everything is kind of all under one roof. And I found that at Cold Chain. I also really liked that the products that they're developing matched me as an engineer. I tend to gravitate more towards what would be considered simpler goods. I'm not really that interested in high precision engine design. I tend to be a little more interested in everyday simpler products with less tight tolerances. Just a personal preference. So that is kind of more on the packaging end of things. As well as our teams have always been very diverse here regarding race and gender and backgrounds. And I really did like that when I came in on my interview to who I met. So it was a match all around, and I joined the team 9 years ago, almost to the day, and I've been very happy here ever since.
That's great. You mentioned sewing a few times, and I know you have a sewing hobby.
I do.
So you want to go into that?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I mostly am a quilter, and I will sometimes work from patterns that are available, commercially. But for the most part, I design my own patterns, and we'll just go to a fabric store, and whatever strikes my fantasy, I will design it like on the spot, which drives the owners of the stores crazy because I never quite know exactly what I need until I get to the register. But that's just the engineering brain at work, right? Like you get an idea and then you kind of piece it together a little bit at a time. And in quilting, that's quite literal. So I quite enjoy that as a hobby. I do occasionally make garments, especially children's garments. I've made clothing for myself on occasion, but I do tend to like the geometry aspect, the kind of mind meditation flow aspect of quilting in particular. So I tend to gravitate back that way.
Cool. It sounds like an average day at Cold Chain Technologies. I mean, for sure, like you've got a problem to solve or you've got something to kind of assemble, put together. There is some moments of Zen, and then you put it together, and there's lots of geometric shapes involved, fractals, crystallizing of PCM. So, so tell us about your engineering path, and again, like kind of what got you first really into the concept of engineering.
Well, the concept of engineering in general. So, it was quite a good student, super boring first child in my family, right? Type A personality. I loved school. I did well, but that actually left me at a little bit of a disadvantage of figuring out what I wanted to do in the world, because I could probably choose a lot of different paths. And for me, in my personality type, that was quite overwhelming. So I took a lot of different approaches. Didn't really come up with much to narrow down my search until one of my father's friends came over for around dinner time one night. I don't remember exactly if it was a social call or if they were staying for dinner or dropping off some kind of business stuff for my dad. But he saw me playing Tetris. And I'm very good at Tetris. Like that is the video game that I'm good at. All right. And it makes sense. I put boxes in boxes at work all the time. It makes sense that I'm here. He saw me playing and he was like, you're sending her to engineering school, right? And I was like, oh, they are. Yes. That's so great. I really, for whatever reason at that moment, at that time, or just it was that final little comment or puzzle piece that really made it all fit together. And I was like, oh, that is what I should go and do. Like,
the right nudge at the right time.
Exactly. It was just exactly that. And then the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
I specifically looked at engineering schools, and then once I started in the gen ed, like general engineering, I found my way to mechanical pretty quickly.
Cool.
I think I also looked at civil, but in general, I was like more interested in like component parts or products that people would interact with versus like bridges and buildings or watersheds, that kind of thing.
No, that's really cool. I mean, I've always said with my kind of career arc, I started out with a degree in history, minor in political science. I thought I was going to be, and I had a concentration with video production. So I was like, I'm going to be the next Ken Burns. That didn't pan out, but I've taken a lot of the same skills along with having a research-minded approach to things to be able to like work in video, sports production, etc. And now here at marketing at Cold Chain Technologies, and so I've always like said like I have a mind for lifelong learning. It was my high school motto, was just become a lifelong learner. And yeah, I really just took that motto to heart. I don't know what it was about it. It was plastered everywhere in the classrooms in high school, but I became a really big advocate for learning just beyond whatever that might be in certificates, higher degrees, et cetera. So what advice would you have for people that are in high school or college right now looking to step into a career like yours? Where to look, or like what things to join, what people to look toward?
Yeah, I would say like stepping into a career like mine, or like really any career going forward, I would say first start with yourself and like your values, what resonates with you. Like Jeff said, like the motto for this school luckily resonated for him. Didn't necessarily lead exactly to a specific career path, but the more you learn, the more opportunities you have, and eventually like something will present itself to you that does grab your attention and make sense. So I'd say like first listen to yourself and what's important to you and what you value. And then after that, make sure that you're surrounding yourselves with really positive influences, supportive mentors, make use of your high school guidance, either guidance counselors or particular teachers that you have a special bond with. I know that my high school teachers in science and math were very important to me at the time. And although they didn't guide me to a specific path, just the fact that their curriculum was the curriculum that I was most interested in did help shape my path quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I just say, like, you know more than you think you know, even at a very young age in high school, especially about yourself and where you're going to end up heading in life.
Yeah.
And trust yourself on that.
That's great. So we have posters and core values that are marked with our work matters around the building, around the facilities here globally at CCT. So with that in mind, tell us about how your work matters to the customer, to the patient, to your daily life.
Well, in the engineering department, we are often kind of an overhead sort of department. We don't really directly build any product. We don't directly interface with customers very often, but we are the ones who are responsible for making sure that the systems that we produce here at Cold Chain work, and that our customers and their patients downstream can trust that they're going to work. So we very much focused on that trustworthiness and quality of engineering, quality of test data and presentation on a daily basis in everything we do and every action that we take, from our engineering desks to the laboratory setting. I'd also say that just the fact that I can even tell my own child that the reason that I need to go to work is not to pay bills. It is to genuinely help people, because I care about that. I want people to receive their life-sustaining and quality of life generating medications in a safe, effective, like cost-effective and efficient manner.
Yeah.
That really does mean quite a bit to me on a personal level. So it feels good in that way, and definitely motivates me to continue coming to work and doing a good job, and always putting our patients, like the patients that eventually will benefit from our work, first.
Yeah, I felt that way too about, COVID a few years ago starting off, and it was like we were thrust into that and playing a big role. Mm-hmm. And I always felt like, at some point in time I'll be able to say, our company I worked at, all the different people that were involved played a huge role in helping to curb the pandemic. So
yeah, it was absolutely weird to see products that like I was the lead engineer on, like sitting on conference tables for Operation Warp Speed. And stuff.
Right, and suddenly just being like, oh, hey.
I made that.
Yeah.
Or like I was, I did the drawings for that, or I did the test.
Yeah, or my colleague
testing for that.
Yeah, my colleague Paul designed the artwork for it. It's like, oh wow, this is coming full circle.
Yeah, you see the pictures that he did in his artwork has become very recognizable to a lot of people, because our shippers that were used for COVID distribution, they are actually public facing, because they end up in a lot of like CVS pharmacies,
right,
and doctors' offices. So they, although people might not recognize Cold Chain Technologies as a name like off the bat, like they might recognize EcoFlex, or they might recognize our swoosh that Paul designed.
Yeah, and the fractals and everything else from there. So there'll be another episode with that. So stay tuned. But so with that, we'll turn our eyes toward the next episode. But what do you hope to see from this episode, this podcast series? Kind of around the theme of our work matters. So other stories that you think can weave into that.
Oh, I'd love to just give our listeners an idea of what goes on beyond just what they might see at the pharmacy, or like open the package off their front porch, and have a better understanding of the industry that's behind that. It's often kind of an afterthought, like the box that you put something in versus the product that's being designed or the medication that's being developed. But the packaging and distribution portion of it is very important, because without it, your medication would not necessarily be effective or safe for you by the time that it reaches the patient. So I just hope that we can get a better understanding of our industry, like you said, a peek behind the curtain, but also just build maybe a little more of a relationship with what goes on with the engineering department, what goes on with, marketing, business development, project management, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, there's so many hidden stories here at CCT that, again, I wanted to kind of bring out into the light. So hearing you first is wonderful. And again, I want to thank you for joining me on the podcast first. So
yeah, thank you
so
for
much.
having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So with that, we'll wrap up the inaugural episode of Beyond the Packout. But stay tuned. We'll have more episodes in the coming weeks and months over the course of the year. So again, thanks for stopping by.